All right. Good evening, students. I hope you are doing well. Online students, I hope I'm audible. Now, in our previous lecture, we had started talking about the Gupta economy, है ना? We had discussed their rural or agrarian economy, and we were talking about their urban economy. The study of the Gupta urban economy can be divided into two phases. First phase, from beginning of the 4th century to the middle of the 5th century CE, can be categorized as a period of urban growth, and the second period between the mid 5th century to the mid 8th century can be considered to be a period of stagnation and decline. Okay. This portion we had already covered. It is this phase that we have to talk about. Now, this phase does not neatly fit into the later Gupta age only. Okay? Later Gupta age came to an end around the mid 6th century. So around 550 CE, Gupta dynasty was no longer there. Okay? Gupta empire had ceased to exist, and the period following that up to the mid 8th century is known as the Post-Gupta age. So this is actually the later and Post-Gupta age. Economy that we have to cover. Now, characteristics तो हमें पता है क्या? Stagnation and then rapid decline. What do we need to identify now? The important factors क्या थे इसके पीछे? ठीक है? So what were the important factors responsible for the decline of the urban economy during the later and post-Gupta ages? Right? So give the heading: urban economy during the later and post-Gupta age. During the later and post-Gupta age. This is the time period 450 to 750 CE. लिखो. This period was characterized by the stagnation and subsequent decline of the urban economy. Characterized by declining trade, crafts production, monetization, declining trade, crafts production, monetization, urbanization, and importance of trade guilds. All this is going to experience decline during this period. ठीक है, next point लिखो. The debasement of currency, the debasement of currency was significant. Was significant. Full stop. Sub point. From the reign of Kumar Gupta onwards, from the reign of Kumar Gupta onwards, Kumar Gupta का period of reign was 415 to 445 CE. From the reign of Kumar Gupta onwards, comma, Gupta gold coinage experienced significant debasement due to the high proportion of base metals such as silver, copper and lead. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट सब पॉइंट लिखो. This trend continued during the reign of Skandagupta as well. This trend continued during the reign of Skandagupta as well. Indicating a rising shortage of metallic gold. And from our previous discussion, ये gold कहाँ से आ रहा था? Primarily from Rome. ठीक है. Next sub point. This indicates a major disruption of India's foreign trade. Full stop. Next sub point. R.S. Sharma has linked the phenomena of monetary anemia, that is monetary anemia का मतलब shortage of currency. ठीक है, लिखो shortage of metallic currency with the collapse of foreign trade. The terminology he uses is long distance trade, not foreign trade. So if you want, you can use that also. The collapse of long distance trade. Due to the beginning of Pune invasions, which contributed to the phenomenon of urban decay and acceleration of the rise of feudalism. Acceleration of the rise of feudalism. Okay? So this is the framework of Indian feudalism that has been given by R.S. Sharma. किससे लिंक किया है इन्होंने इसको फ्यूडलिज्म को with monetary anemia and the collapse of long distance trade due to the beginning of Huna invasions, which led to the decline of cities जहाँ पे most of the trade as well as craft production was going on. And since demand decreased, therefore supply is also going to decrease. So trade is also going to decline, craft production is also going to decline, feudalism is going to increase, and इसके साथ साथ क्या होगा? The ruralification of the economy, ruralization of the economy is going to take place. Agriculture is going to start replacing trade as the mainstay of the economy. As a result of which, feudalism is going to be strengthened even further. Because of monetary anemia, the shortage of metallic currency, the Gupta rulers, who had already an established tradition of paying their important officials in the form of land grants, will have to accelerate it as well. Further, this is also going to be compounded by the beginning of Huna invasions and the rise of military feudalism. Okay? So this is the framework that he has created. समझ में आया है? Next main point लिखो. Along with the debasement of gold coins, the circulation of copper coins also became progressively slower until it finally disappeared, until it finally seems to disappear. What does it mean? This means that not only long distance trade or foreign trade was declining, but local or regional trade was also declining. Low value transactions which needed the circulation or which needed the exchange of low denomination coins, that was also slowing down. Exchange between the different urban centers as well as between the urban and neighboring rural regions, that was also slowing down. And if exchange was taking place, what was its basis? Monetary system was being replaced once again by the barter system, or certain alternatives were being used, such as copper shavings known as churni, copper powder, metallic powder, or coddies, or a particular length of leather, or a particular length of a cloth, or a particular quantity of salt, or any other kind of material such as spice like black pepper, etc. ठीक है? So barter system की तरफ जा रहा. सब point लिखो. This indicates that along with long distance trade, local and regional trade also showed a distinct trend of decline. Full stop. Next point. Monetary exchange was being replaced either by the barter system or some alternate mediums such as churni, metal powder, salt, pepper, cloth, leather, bodies, etc. ठीक है? नेक्स्ट मेन पॉइंट लिखो. The decline of coinage is a reflection of a major economic crisis, especially in the urban economy, full stop. Next point. The literary sources also provide glimpses or also corroborate the idea of urban decay. Also corroborate the idea of urban decay. सब पॉइंट लिखो. Valmiki's Ramayana talks about the desertion of which city? Ayodhya, after the exile of Lord Ram. तो बोल रहा था कि from a bustling city, a happening city, it suddenly became a deserted city. वीरानी हो गई. ठीक है. Next sub point. The Amarkosh also contains specific terms which describe an abandoned settlement Next sub point. The Brihad Samhita also mentions the decline of various craft traditions such as carpentry, pottery, and blacksmithing. And blacksmithing. So stop. Next subpoint. The Kama Sutra also encourages rulers and ordinary individuals to protect and encourage artists, musicians, and scholars. Individuals involved in which kinds of professions? Typically rural professions or urban professions? ये सब rural professions हैं या urban professions? Urban professions. So why was there a need to protect and encourage them? Because they were experiencing a decline. They were losing patronage. The cities themselves were declining, and therefore these professionals were also losing their source of income, and these art forms were also dying off. So that is what has been learned from the literary sources. So both literary as well as the coinage tells a story of what? Of urban decay. ठीक है? Of urban decay. Next point लिखो. Next main point. It is important to understand the factors responsible for the phenomenon of urban decay during the post and later Gupta age. During the post and later Gupta age. Cool. So they include both internal as well as external factors. The beginning of Huna invasions, around the mid 5th century AD, disrupted trade along the Silk Route. Full stop. Connectivity between India, China, and the Roman Empire was disrupted, resulting in a loss of revenue from trade, along with profits from the highly favorable trade relationship. Full stop. This perfectly explains the shortage of precious metals, and the phenomena of monetary anemia. And the phenomena of monetary anemia. So who were the Hunas? Where were they from? The Hunas were a group of warlike tribes who had emerged from the Eurasian steppe region, and after being scattered due to tribal migrations in this belt, they had scattered into different directions. They began invading all of the civilizations situated on the fringes of these steppes. They targeted the Roman Empire also, they targeted the Persian Empire also, they targeted the Gupta Empire also, they targeted the Chinese Empire also. Okay? So in all directions they began invading. And what was the result? All these regions, which were actually at the different vertices of the Silk Route, they were now embattled. Connectivity between them was lost along the Silk Route, and the exchange of materials and money, wealth, would now be interrupted. Okay? This was one reason. Next likho. Next point. The decline of the Western Roman Empire, when around the same time as the Huna invasions began, around the mid 5th century CE, around the mid 5th century CE, also robbed India, of its most lucrative or most profitable trade partner. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट सब पॉइंट लिखो. This period also coincided with the beginning of sericulture, in Asia Minor. ठीक है, किस रीजन को बोलते हैं एशिया माइनर? प्रेजेंट डे एनाटोलिया, टर्की. ठीक है. Which was the power that was ruling over Turkey at this point of time? It was the Eastern Roman Empire. Right? So the Roman Republic, which had emerged sometime around the 4th century BCE, had finally been transformed into an empire by the successors of Julius Caesar in towards the end of the 1st century BC. Okay? So beginning of the Christian age, it became an empire. Over a long period, it continued to expand, but then whatever happens to all empires happened to the Roman Empire as well. Resource stress हुआ, internal rebellions हुए, factionalism started to take place, and ultimately Roman Empire में एक schism हो गया. The Eastern Roman Empire separated from the Western Roman Empire. This period also coincided with the beginning of Hunnic invasions. A very powerful Hunnic invader known as Attila, उसको Attila the Hun भी बोलते हैं. He was personally responsible for the decline of the Western Roman Empire. He conquered Rome and also extracted a huge war booty before retreating and ultimately dying. but he gave a dying blow to the Western Roman Empire. Therefore, it was the Eastern Roman Empire which was now free to consolidate its control over the eastern portion of the Mediterranean. So the entire region from Greece up to Turkey and even Armenia, Georgia, etc., it was controlling. Okay? Now, जो ईस्टर्न रोमन एम्पायर है, it realized that one of the reasons of the weakness of the Western Roman Empire towards the end was the huge drain of wealth that was taking place from Rome towards India. And why was that? Because of the import of large quantities of silk. In fact, silk was so valuable that it was one of the important ransom demands of Attila the Hun. जब उसने रोम के अंदर घुस गया, he demanded 4,000 rolls of Indian silk as ransom from the sitting Roman emperor. Only then did he leave and return. Right? So ये decide किया इन्होंने that we are going to smuggle silk cocoons into Anatolia and we are going to start sericulture over there. They were able to do it. And उसकी वजह से हुआ क्या? Whatever little silk India was still providing to the Western world, now उसकी भी demand खत्म हो जाएगी. ठीक है? So the beginning of sericulture in Asia Minor under the Eastern Roman Empire, क्या लिखा आपने? हाँ. Further gave a major blow to Indian silk traders and craftsmen. Traders and craftsmen. Full stop. Next subpoint. Tensions between China and Tibet in the early 7th century CE further disrupted the overland trade between India and China. ठीक है? So around 612 AD, a major war began between China and Tibet. What was the importance of Tibet at that point of time from the perspective of trade? All the trade routes passed through it, crossed through it. So China से तिब्बत में आने वाले goods और तिब्बत से चाइना वाले goods उसके ऊपर full stop लग जाएगा. This was the main conduit for trade between India and China on the overland Silk route. So that also was stopped as a result. ठीक है? Next subpoint, next factor. The situation was further compounded by the growing weakness and ultimate disintegration of the Gupta Empire. Disintegration of the Gupta Empire. Okay. So Skandagupta was the last powerful ruler of the Gupta Empire who was able to push back the Hunas, repel the Hunas. After that, the Gupta started to lose one territory after the other. And as the Hunas became Indianized, what happened? The regionalization of power is going to take place. They started to assimilate themselves into the Indian society and assumed वेरियस इंडियन लिनिएजेस. ठीक है? तो किसी ने बोला कि हम ये वाले क्षत्रिय हैं इस वंश के, किसी ने बोला हम ये वाले वंश के क्षत्रिय हैं. and they now started to establish their own regional kingdoms. What is the relationship between these later Gupta kingdoms going to be like? Are they going to be friendly or hostile? Largely hostile. Why? Because by this point of time, trade and commerce are at their lowest point. Agriculture is the mainstay of the economy, meaning land is the most important economic resource. Feudalism is also very high. So, territorial and feudal warfare is going to take place. And as a result, trade is going to go down even further. Okay? So, weakness and disintegration of the Gupta Empire also compounded this situation even further. ठीक है आगे लिखो नेक्स्ट पॉइंट ग्रोइंग फ्यूडलिज्म हाँ नेक्स्ट पॉइंट growing feudalism in the society growing feudalism in the society further suppressed production and exchange contributing to the acceleration of urban decay next subpoint the strong revival of Brahmanism put ideological shackles on urban economic activities how by making rigid caste rules which discouraged crafts production and encouraged agriculture by making rigid varna and caste based rules that discouraged craft production and encouraged agriculture ठीक है नेक्स्ट पॉइंट लिखो मेन पॉइंट आर एस शर्मा further goes on to claim that the process of urban decay was not confined to the post and later Gupta ages. Full stop. It had started as early as 300 CE and lasted till at least the 12th century CE, or around 1100 CE. Okay? And lasted till at least the 12th century CE. Next main point likho. However, recent historiography has raised serious questions over the Marxist framework of urban decay. ठीक है, क्या बोला है इन्होंने? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, urban decay is not a standalone theory that has been suggested. It is part of the wider ideological framework of Indian feudalism. Which was given by the Marxist historians beginning with D.D. Kosambi, but most important contributor was R.S. Sharma. Right? Now, Indian feudalism itself, the phenomena of Indian feudalism itself has been largely discarded by recent historiography. It has been disproven, right? And therefore, the phenomena of urban decay, which in fact is a subset of the framework of Indian feudalism, arguments for it are also now becoming weaker and weaker. ठीक है, तो ये अब काफी वीक हो चुका है. Secondly, it has been argued that R.S. Sharma has taken a very Eurocentric view of Indian history when presenting the framework of Indian feudalism and urban decay. In fact, it was a Belgian historian during the 1920s and 30s. His name was Henri Perron, who had come up with the framework and explanation of feudalism, which was prevalent in medieval Europe between the 7th and 14th centuries CE. Okay? So he had given the idea of European feudalism in the Middle Ages. क्या बोला था इसने? That feudalism was triggered by what? The beginning of Arab invasions of Europe towards the end of the 7th century. This resulted in the disruption of long distance trade, causing monetary anemia and social rigidity, since the Christian social order felt threatened by the new Islamic social order. And these things contributed to the rise of land grants along with the increasing or rising status of the church in regulating not only social life and not only religious life, but also society, education, and even politics. As a result, centralized control weakened and feudalism emerged. Okay? And this process lasted till the 7th century, when, for the first time, commercialization of agriculture started taking place, commercialization of craft started taking place due to the phenomenon of Renaissance and Reformation. So as a result of Renaissance, feudalism was given its death blow, and the church's control over state, society, and religion, that was also shrinking. So this freed up the European society, and Europe transformed from the medieval to the मिडिल एजेस. ठीक है. आर एस शर्मा क्या कहते हैं? सिंपली यही वाला फ्रेमवर्क उठाते हैं और इंडियन हिस्ट्री के ऊपर इंपोज कर देते हैं. The argument that has been made is that is it ever going to be possible that two entirely separate situations with different climates, with different people, with different culture, with different religions, and with different political scenarios and social values, can they follow the exactly same trajectory of historical development? नहीं हो सकता. So he has been criticized for his Eurocentric view of Indian feudalism. ठीक है. And as a result, his urban decay phenomena is also being challenged. Thirdly, the revisionist historians have also challenged the timeline provided by R.S. Sharma for the phenomena of urban decay. R.S. Sharma ने क्या timeline provide किया है? 300 से लेकर के 1100 CE तक. ठीक है. रिविजनिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस क्या बोलते हैं? That it was never this long lasting. कैसे पता हमें? That Harshvardhan and Huen Sang have both provided details about flourishing cities or declining cities? Flourishing cities. Further, Kalidas, Shudrak, Bhash, Vishakha Dutt, etc. What kind of picture do they paint of a flourishing urban environment or of decaying cities? Once again, of flourishing urban environment. Further, Gupta period experienced a major spurt in cultural activities, that is music, art, literature, in scientific development, Varamihar and Aryabhatta were in fact products of this period only. In philosophical developments, the emergence of Bhakti, Tantricism, the consolidation of the 6 orthodox schools of Indian philosophy. All of these took place during this period. Ajanta Ellora caves were excavated during this period. Cave paintings were made during this period. Monumental temples, temple art, all of this is going to start during this period. So, can they or are these symptoms of a decaying urban environment or of a flourishing urban environment? Flourishing urban environment, all these are urban pursuits. Once again, flourishing cities. Okay. Further, while it may be true that for a short period after the disintegration of the Gupta Empire, small ruling principalities governed different portions of North India, political unity was definitely provided during the post and later Gupta periods by rulers such as Harshvardhan, Yashovarman, etc. Okay. Secondly, after the end of the later Gupta age, the tripartite struggle took place from the 8th to the 10th centuries between three powerful empires who were once again able to provide political unity and stability. This would definitely have had a more favorable impact on trade, commerce, urbanization, etc., craft production, right? So it is wrong to argue that this period experienced steady and secular decline all over the country in urban economy. That has been one argument. And fourthly, it has been argued that R.S. Sharma took a very North Indian centric view of history. क्यों? During this period, what was going on in South India beyond the Deccan region? Powerful kingdoms and empires were flourishing, such as the Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Cholas, before any of them Pallavas, Pandyas, etc. Okay. South India में the process of urban development that had started with the Sangam age that continued unabated. So So in South India, urbanization was not disrupted at all. In fact, we witnessed the emergence of a number of new cities such as Gangaikonda Cholapuram, Kanchipuram, Rameshwaram, etc. Right? During this period only. Fifthly, it has been argued that long distance trade may have slowed down with the Western world, but did it mean that it also slowed down with the Eastern world? No. Maritime trade with the East, in fact, expanded. In fact, This was the very period which coincided with the diffusion of Indian culture across the whole of Southeast Asia. That means the exchange of trade must have been very voluminous. Sixthly, it has been argued that monetary anemia is in itself a flawed concept. Why? Firstly, because it argues that monetary anemia resulted in the complete isolation of villages which became closed and self-sufficient pockets, right, economically speaking. But are such kinds of pockets ever sustainable? Will all the goods required by the residents of a particular village be locally available at all times? No. So some degree of trade is always going to be present. Secondly, even if due to the decline in the supply of precious metals, there is debasement in gold coinage and the beginning of the end of metallic currency circulation, we also see that at the same time, some other things started to be used as mediums of exchange. So they were alternatives to metallic currency. This does not mean monetization had stopped. Instead of coins, specific quantities of these items were being used. Alternatives to metallic coins continued to sustain exchange. Thirdly, one of the things that we had seen was used as a medium of exchange was coddies. One of the other things we had seen was salt. Are they going to be readily available locally in all the physiographic regions of India? No, but they were found from all physiographic regions of India. कैसे पहुंचे होंगे यहाँ पे? Through trade. Fourthly, recently, that means in the past 2 decades, historians such as B.D. Chattopadhyay, they have highlighted the discovery of Harikela silver coinage in large quantities from the region of Bengal and Kalachuri gold coinage belonging to the 9th and 10th century from central India. So this means that ये जो अर्बन डीके का फिनोमेना है, इसका टाइमलाइन भी अलग है और इसका इम्पैक्ट भी अलग था. क्लियर? Further, it has been argued that if Indian feudalism was to actually be like European feudalism का एक corollary था क्या? The practice of serfdom. ठीक है? However, serfdom, as we had seen in our previous lecture, was never entrenched within the Indian society deeply. Okay? Instead, the Indian peasantry constituted what can be considered to be a free peasant society. And why is this? Because productivity of the land in India was much higher than Europe. ठीक है? Why was it much higher? First of all, because of the long growing season. Ten months of sunshine across North India. Warm and humid climate, which is much more suitable for agriculture and supporting large varieties of crops. At most in Europe, what kinds of grains could be cultivated? Wheat or barley. India mein rice, whose calorific content is at least 4 times higher than either of those grains. So the population it could sustain was much larger. Population was much larger in Europe. Did or would India ever experience the same severity of shortage of agrarian labor as Europe as a result? No. So there was ample labor. And if you've seen on the Discovery Channel or YouTube वगैरह पे इंडियन बुल और यूरोपियन बुल डिफरेंस क्या है मेजर? हम्प इंडियन बुल में होता है और यूरोपियन बुल में नहीं होता है. As a result, in India, animal power was being used for agricultural tasks from the earliest periods. Europe it became possible only due to technological innovations by the 13th and 14th centuries. Okay? As a result of which, the average yield of agriculture in India was at least 4 times the average yield in Europe. Okay? Meaning that in Europe, if a farmer plants one seed, he would get 4 grains when he harvests the crop. In India, one seed would result in the production of at least 16 grains. Okay? And as a result of this, the control of the landlords over the peasants, where would it be greater? In Europe or in India? In Europe. Okay? In India, it would be much lesser. Why? Because labor over here is not the most important factor of production. कम labor से भी ample productivity मिल सकती. And the peasantry was relatively free. Even though begari existed, even though the system of vrishti existed, Indian society or peasant society was characterized by the element of a free peasant society. This is the argument that has been made by Harbans-Mukh here. Okay? And on this basis, it has been argued that India mein feudalism or European style feudalism at least was never there. ठीक है? इसका एविडेंस क्या है? Very few peasant rebellions in India as compared to Europe. In Western Europe, over the 600 or 700 years of feudalism, a series of more than 100 peasant rebellions took place. India mein we have evidence of only 2 in this entire period. Why? What was the reason? This was the reason. So since feudalism did not exist, that means that अर्बन डीके भी वैसा नहीं था जैसे आर एस शर्मा इमेजिन कर, ठीक है. एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू आर एस शर्मा, what resulted finally in the emergence or re-emergence of urbanization? The establishment of Arab rule over Sindh, which resulted in the revival of trade, and the beginning of Turkish invasions into India, which resulted in technological improvements. So this restarted the process of urbanization towards the end of the Rajput age. 11 से 12 सेंचुरी के बीच में वो प्रोसेस दोबारा से बढ़ना शुरू हुआ. एंड आफ्टर द एस्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ टर्किश रूल फाइनली नॉर्थ इंडिया में पॉलिटिकल यूनिटी आई, ठीक है. And as a result, monetary consolidation, political consolidation took place. Trade could be encouraged. Internal and external barriers to trade were removed, and trade was revived, resulting in the revival of agriculture. Now, that is very similar to the explanation given by Henri Péron. वो क्या बोलते हैं? That because of Reformation and the Renaissance, once again strong centralized rule was established, and as a result, urbanization also revived. ठीक है. So ये जो idea है of the association of strong centralized rule with urbanization and decentralization with deurbanization, that has also been challenged. So correlation between centralization and urbanization has also been challenged. Example, क्या एग्जाम्पल दे सकते हैं हम? That post-modern age, was it characterized by centralization of power or decentralization of power? Marked decentralization of power. Mauryan Empire had disintegrated, centralized power had been scattered, and the Mauryan Empire itself had been divided into various regional empires and kingdoms. And this age itself is accepted by R. S. Sharma and the other Marxist historians to be the peak of the second urbanization. They have argued that did this age also not witness foreign invasions? It witnessed foreign invasions. As a result, there is also no direct correlation between foreign invasions and the decline of urbanization. So, foreign invasions are not directly proportional to deurbanization. In fact, they can be inversely proportional to deurbanization also, urban decay also. ठीक है. So ये जो framework दिया है Marxist historians ने, it may seem to be very logical from the top, but if we take a very granular approach, objective approach, a different reality starts to emerge. Last चीज आपने क्या लिखा है? Over the Marxist framework of urban decay. लिखो. Next. Firstly, पॉइंट्स करके लिख लो इसके नीचे. Firstly, comma, the phenomenon of urban decay is part of the wider framework of Indian feudalism, which has itself been fundamentally weakened, been fundamentally weakened, been fundamentally weakened, which has itself been fundamentally weakened by recent historiography. As a result, the theory of urban decay has also come under attack. Has also come under attack. Number 2, R.S. Sharma, who is the most prominent historian to support the urban decay theory, has been accused for taking a uniquely Eurocentric view of Indian history. The point, Eurocentric view of Indian history. Full stop. In fact, he is alleged to have imposed the framework of European feudalism originally developed by Henri Péron, HENRI PERON. क्या लिखा है, ये लाइन क्या है? In fact, he is alleged to have on the Gupta and Post-Gupta period, on the Gupta and Post-Gupta age, The point, it has been argued that the process of historical development and change can never be identical, and change can never be identical for two distant civilizations, with highly distinct climates, cultures, religions, values, institutions, philosophies and practices. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट लिखो नंबर 3, the timeline suggested by R.S. Sharma as the period of urban decay in brackets you can write 300 to 1100 CE has also been questioned on the grounds that several facts have been overlooked and generalizations have been made. Several facts have been overlooked and generalizations have been made. Full stop. Subpoint. Faheen and Huensang report the flourishing status of urbanization in India. Urbanization in India. Full stop. Next subpoint. The literary compositions of the Gupta era scholars, novelists, and playwrights also reflect a bustling urban environment, with various classes and diverse peoples living together. ठीक है, next subpoint. The Gupta age also corresponded with or also coincided with the most prolific period of cultural, scientific, and philosophical development in the whole of ancient Indian history. Development in the whole of ancient Indian history. Full stop. This could only have been possible in a vibrant urban environment. in a vibrant urban environment. Full stop. Next subpoint. Even during the post-Gupta age, rulers such as the rulers such as Harshvardhan, comma, Yashovarman, comma, the Gurjar Pratiharas, Palas, and Rashtrakutas continued to provide political unity, comma, stability, and encourage cultural development. Full stop. Therefore, the urban environment did not disintegrate entirely. Next, number 4. R.S. Sharma's views on urban decay also betray a distinct North Indian bias. Full stop. Subpoint. South of the Vindhyas, comma, urbanization continued to flourish in full swing. Under the stewardship of the Pallavas, Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Pandyas, and Cholas. ठीक है. Next, number 5. While focusing upon the decline of India's trade with Rome, comma, R.S. Sharma and his companions have largely ignored India's expanding trade with Southeast Asia and China over the sea route. Full stop. Sub point. In fact, this trade was so vibrant and voluminous that it led to a significant dispersal of Indian culture across the whole of Southeast Asia during this period. Argument we are trying to make over here is that the decline in trade with Rome was more than made up for by the expansion of trade with Southeast Asia and China to the maritime. Okay. Next लिखो number 6. The phenomena of monetary anemia upon which the theory of urban decay is based has also been challenged. On which the theory of urban decay is based has also been challenged on the following grounds. Full stop. The point. In reality, some degree of trade is always going to be present, since the diversity of climate, geography, and material advancement make it impossible for all locally consumed goods to be locally available. So essentially we are saying that वो जो idea है of the self-sufficient Indian village, that was a myth. ठीक है? Next sub point. Similarly, the decline of currency does not necessarily mean the decline of trade. In fact, decline of trade, full stop. In fact, the use of alternative media of exchange indicates the continuation of economic exchange. Those things we had mentioned, na? Churni, salt, pepper, cloth, leather, or coddies. Clear? Next sub point. The discovery of coddies from interior regions of the subcontinent for the purpose of exchange indicates that these regions for the purpose of exchange indicates that these regions were definitely connected to the coastal areas. The coastal areas. Coddies वहीं से आ रही थी. In fact, not even from the Indian coast, most of the coddies were coming. What was the main source? The Seychelles. ठीक है. तो Seychelles से इंडिया का कनेक्टिविटी था. This indicates that long distance trade was not dying. In fact, it was flourishing. Next point. B.D. Chattopadhyay and Ranveer Chakrabarti. Have highlighted the flourishing Harikela silver coinage of Bengal within brackets 8th century and Kalachuri gold coinage in central India within brackets 9th century to suggest that the so-called phenomena of urban decay was neither as severe nor as long lasting neither as severe nor as long lasting as previously suggested. ठीक है. ना उतना सीवियर था ना इतना लंबा चला. क्लियर. 6 हो गए. नंबर 7. owing to the climatic differences between India and Western Europe, Harbans Mukhia has made the argument that serfdom was never deeply entrenched in Indian society or in the Indian economy. Due to the much higher productivity of Indian agriculture. Full stop. The point. The peasants or the cultivators who constituted a significant degree of, who constituted a free peasant society, enjoyed, a free peasant society enjoyed a significant degree of economic and physical mobility. Economic and physical mobility. What does this mean? आर शर्मा क्या बोल रहे थे? That because of the rise of Brahmanism, because of the rise of feudalism, craftsmanship was being discouraged, trade was brought to a standstill, and agriculture was being encouraged. People were being forced to practice agriculture and agriculture alone. अर्बन्स मुखिया क्या बोल रहे हैं? इतना कंट्रोल जरूरी था ही नहीं, देयरफॉर लेबर मार्केट वाज मच मोर एजाइल. ठीक है, मार्केट मैकेनिज्म यूज्ड टू डिटरमिन कि लोग क्या ऑक्यूपेशन फॉलो करें. दैट इज द आर्गुमेंट दैट ही इज मेकिंग. लास्ट चीज क्या लिखी है? फिजिकल मोबिलिटी. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. as such the kind of tangible and intangible barriers to production and trade suggested by R.S. Sharma were never present in India. ठीक है, what is the last line that you have written? As such, the kind of tangible and intangible barriers to trade and craft production as suggested by R.S. Sharma were actually never present in. ठीक है, so ये कोई barriers नहीं, तो इसका मतलब trade and commerce इस वजह से decline भी नहीं कर रहा. And why? What is the reason behind that? क्योंकि इंडिया की जो पेजेंट सोसाइटी और लेबर मार्केट है, वहां पे कंडीशन कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट है एज कंपेयर टू यूरोप. नेक्स्ट लिखो, नंबर 8. recent historiography has also debunked the correlation made by Marxist historians between political decentralization / feudalism and deurbanization. Stop. Subpoint. The post-Mauryan age, which is widely regarded as the high watermark of second urbanization, experienced a drastic reduction in political centralization due to the disintegration of the Mauryan Empire, due to the disintegration of the Mauryan Empire and the early beginnings of feudalism due to the emergence of land grants and the integrative process of state formation. Integrative process of state formation. समझ में आया ये? Drastic reduction in political centralization due to the disintegration of the Mauryan Empire and the early beginnings of feudalism due to the beginning of land grants and state formation through the integrative process. ठीक है, समझ में आया ना ये? तो यहाँ पे हमने जैसे एक आर्गुमेंट किया था कि डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन, यहाँ पे हमने दो आर्गुमेंट कर दिए कि डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन और फ्यूडलिज्म दोनों. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट मेन पॉइंट लिखो, नंबर 9. Similarly, the attempt by Marxists to correlate foreign invasions with the phenomenon of urban decay has also been challenged. Full stop. Subpoint. In fact, throughout the post-Mauryan age, a period lasting half a millennium, India experienced several waves of foreign invasions. Full stop. Next subpoint. Despite this, growth of the urban economy reached its peak during this very age. ठीक है, अब देखो यहां पे हमने बात करी है थ्योरी ऑफ अर्बन डीके की, but at the same time we have also addressed the theory of monetary anemia and the wider framework of Indian feudalism itself. ठीक है, now most of the questions on these issues we should be able to answer using the arguments that we have just studied. अब हमें करना क्या होगा एंड में, that when we are talking about Indian feudalism specifically, तो इस पे एक तरह का क्वेश्चन आ सकता है स्पेसिफिकली रिगार्डिंग द हिस्टोरियोग्राफी। तो अलग अलग हिस्टोरियंस ने क्या क्या बोला है, only that information we need to gather. The arguments that those historians have made, the logic that they have given, the correlations that they have established, वो वही वाले होंगे जो हमने अभी तक के इस डिबेट में कवर किए हैं। ठीक है, तो इंडियन फ्यूडलिज्म का फ्रेमवर्क सजेस्ट करने वाले कौन से हिस्टोरियंस? मार्क्सिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस बिगिनिंग विद डी कौशाम्बी फॉलोड बाय आर एस शर्मा, डीएनएस यादव, डीएन झा एटसेट्रा, एंड उसको डिबंक करने वाले रिविजनिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस। इंपॉर्टेंट नेम्स कौन से हैं? बीडी चट्टोपाध्याय, हरबंस मुखिया, जॉन एस डेल, आंद्रे विंक एटसेट्रा। ठीक है, उन्होंने क्या क्या स्पेसिफिकली बोला है, वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग दैट व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इंडियन फ्यूडलिज्म स्पेसिफिकली। लेकिन व्हाट आर द एग्जैक्ट आर्गुमेंट्स दैट दे हैव मेड, वो हम यहाँ पे कर चुके हैं, यहीं से कॉपी पेस्ट करना। समझ में आया है ये पूरा फ्रेमवर्क? ठीक, तो ये हो गया हमारा डिस्कशन ऑन दी गुप्ता इकोनॉमी। टेक डाउन अ कपल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस। Critically evaluate the theory of urban decay during the later Gupta age. ठीक है, when we say later Gupta age, 450 to 550 CE. क्लियर? क्या बोलोगे? आर्य शर्मा ने बोला है ऐसा ऐसा हुआ, और फिर उसके बाद क्या बताना है? ऐसा नहीं हुआ, बट you have to use only the arguments which are relevant for this period. तो यहाँ पे आप हर्षवर्धन, यशोवर्मन, चालुक्यास, पल्लवास इन सबको इन्वोक कर सकते हो? नहीं कर सकते हो, बट यू कैन इन्वोक अदर थिंग्स। ठीक है, अनदर क्वेश्चन टेक डाउन। डिस्कस the socio-economic effects of the declining urban economy during the Gupta age. What do we have to do over here? यहाँ पे भी इसको डिबेट के फॉर्म में प्रेजेंट करना है? नो, we simply need to discuss the socio-economic effects of the phenomena of urban decay during the Gupta age. So we simply need to magnify the arguments that have been made by RSF. क्या बोल सकते हैं, किस तरह के सोशियो इकोनॉमिक इफेक्ट्स हुए इसके? अर्बन डिके corresponded with the decline of trade and crafts production, which contributed to the ruralization of the economy. Which induced trade, decline of trade and commerce, also induced a monetary anemia. which encouraged the growth of feudalism. As a result of the ruralization of the economy, contact between different regions, that is going to slow down exchange of ideas, that is going to slow down education and urban culture, that is going to slowly disappear. Pre-thinking, contact with foreigners, attitude to foreigners, etc., they are also going to become lesser and lesser. As a result, ruralization of the economy is going to contribute to an inward looking insular approach and a conservative mindset. This is going to work hand in hand with the institution of feudalism, which will further contribute to the revival of Brahmanism. What is going to be the effect of the revival of Brahmanism? सोशल इम्पैक्ट क्या पड़ेगा इसका? Varna and caste hierarchy is going to become more pronounced. The elements of purity and pollution within the society are going to become more pronounced, as a result of which untouchability is also going to increase. Further, due to the revival of Brahmanism and the rising conservatism in society, the restrictions on women they are also going to increase. Attitudes towards foreigners, that is going to be discouraged, or they are going to, that is going to become negative. However, this was also a period of expanding economy, expanding rural economy. A number of new tribal groups were being incorporated. Then this was also a period of the regionalization of the economy. The Brahmanical culture was being spread to new regions, resulting in various manifestations. What would be the result of this? दोनों processes का result क्या होगा? The proliferation of castes. Further, which kinds of activities is the Brahmanical order going to promote and which ones is it going to discourage? It will promote agriculture and discourage trade and commerce. Okay? So, trade and commerce will be discouraged. Craft production वही trade and commerce में ही आ जाएगा. Secondary economic activities are going to be discouraged and agriculture is going to be encouraged. The different varnas are also going to experience a major change in their social position as a result of this. The most widely affected would be the Vaishyas and Shudras. Vaishyas are going to experience a decline in their social status, and Shudras are going to experience an improvement, resulting in their almost equivalent status. ठीक है इतना? Further, the Varnashram Dharma system, the idea of bhakti, and the emergence of feudalism is going to create what kind of an economic scenario in the rural economy? Egalitarianism or inequality? Inequality. So, rural inequality is going to increase. What was the question? Discuss the socio-economic effects of the declining urban economy during the गुप्ता एज. हमने यहाँ पे सोसाइटी में कई चीजें देखी हैं और इकोनॉमी में कई चीजें देखी हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, रूरलाइजेशन ऑफ द इकोनॉमी, डिक्लाइन ऑफ ट्रेड एंड क्राफ्ट्स, and feudalization of the economy. Then we have seen the decline of trade and crafts and rise of agriculture and the rise of rural inequality. ये हो गए इकोनॉमिक इफेक्ट्स. बाकी हो गए social impact. Varna and caste system going to become more pronounced, more rigid. Purity and pollution going to become more important. Untouchability is going to increase. Restrictions on women are going to increase. Attitude towards foreigners are going to become negative. Caste proliferation is going to increase because although attitude towards foreigners is negative, some of them would have to be incorporated, and due to the expansion of the rural economy, expansion of agriculture, new tribal groups are also being incorporated. This is being done not through a centralized process, but it is happening in different pockets regionally towards the during the later Gupta age. Therefore, a number of new castes are going to emerge. Through the caste and Varna rules, trade and commerce are going to be discouraged while agriculture would be promoted. Vaishyas are going to be experiencing a decline, and Shudras and improvement in their social condition. ठीक है, तो ये यहां तक तो आप पहुंच जाओगे. कंक्लूजन में क्या करना होगा? Discuss the socio-economic effects of declining urban economy during the Gupta age. कंक्लूजन में क्या करोगे? एग्जैक्टली. तो जो अभी हमने डिबेट डिस्कस किया था, you should introduce that over here. So while it appears that the phenomena of urban decay had a profound impact on contemporary society and economy, the very phenomena of urban decay has been challenged by recent historiography. And as a result, the economic and social picture has simultaneously become more complex and blurry. Finally, that further research is necessary to finally settle these questions. Here, because this is still an open debate. academic exchange keeps on taking place regarding the debate on Indian feudalism and urban decay. Okay. ये वाला तो आप कर ही लेंगे. ये हो गया the Gupta economy. Next, we have to talk about the Gupta society. But काफी लंबा और कॉम्प्लिकेटेड टॉपिक है, सो वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस इट इन अ फ्रेश लेक्चर. कल के लेक्चर में इसको डिस्कस करते हैं. ठीक है, गोइंग टू एंड दिस लेक्चर फॉर नाउ. Any doubts with regards to our discussion on the Gupta economy, debate on urban decay, etc.? नहीं समझ में आ गया ना पूरा? चलिए दिन. थैंक यू फॉर योर टाइम. कल मिलते हैं.